We are very pleased to welcome you to the latest session of our Serving Up Knowledge series, the Grande Prairie District Chamber of Commerce, working with the City of Grande Prairie and working with our local business community who are so willing and able to share their skill sets and help other businesses take away with some information that they can use in their own businesses, and as a result we grow our economy and we grow the region and we grow our community and we grow those relationships between business people, and it's been working really well. We appreciate everyone who's been participating, and of course we appreciate our presenters, and today we welcome back our presenters, our friends from 910 Incorporated. We have Ryan and Marissa, and today they will be talking about leveraging Instagram for your business. So towards the end of the session, we'll remind you of a couple of other upcoming sessions, including, as you can see on the screen, next Thursday, the Get in the Loop, Step into Mobile Marketing, if you'd like some more information about that. And then 910 comes back on May 27th with some cross-promotion messaging sessions. So it'll be more information for you as the month goes on. But for today, I will turn it over to Ryan, Marissa, and welcome back, folks.
Perfect. Thank you for the warm introduction, Tom. We've sure been collaborating a lot with City of Grande Prairie and Chamber of Commerce, both as a part of this series, Serving Up Knowledge. I believe this is our third one. As you just mentioned, we have more coming down the pipe. And actually, just a bit of a shout out as well. I see that Ricardo Flores from ATB is on the call as well. And, you know, we do similar series of sessions like this. We've done quite a few with ATB over time. And this really aligns with our philosophy at 910 to transfer knowledge, to empower small and medium businesses within Alberta to do more on their own, to take a lot of these digital marketing skill sets in-house. Marissa, if I could ask you to advance the slide to the digital bootcamp. So before I transfer it over to Marissa, I wanted to just give everyone a little bit of framing. So I guess it was for about a year now, we have been collaborating really actively with the City of Grande Prairie, with the Chamber of Commerce, with County of Grande Prairie, and Community Futures. Long story short, we developed an intensive digital marketing training program. We call it the Digital Bootcamp. And this program has now blossomed and it's evolved, and it is now open to the public, and we are expanding it throughout Alberta. And with this program, we have a really unique partnership with the Chambers of Commerce. Marissa, if you can go to the next slide. And so as just, again, a little bit of framing, as the presentation that Marissa will be delivering today in regards to Instagram, this can be viewed as a small slice of some of the type of content that we provide within our training program. So our training program is a 3-month program. It's targeted for small and medium businesses, those businesses who are ready to invest in terms of bringing some of the skill sets in-house, developing some professional skills and best practices to be able to do more of the digital marketing activities with in-house resources. Our main pillars within the program are brand, web, social, and search. And of course, today we're going to be giving a little sneak peek in terms of one of the platforms within social, of course, Instagram. Marissa, if you can go to the next slide real quickly. So within that program, we have a learning portal where the students can go through the various modules, sort of at your own pace, asynchronously, as they call it. But we also have a private learning community, a peer-to-peer learning community. It's a private Facebook group that is intentional. It's one of the platforms where we are transferring knowledge and building expertise and comfort for our learners. And within that learning community, we have weekly coaching calls on various topics. Later on today, Marissa's leading a coaching call on social media and content strategy. If you can go to the next slide, Marissa. Speaking of that, our live coaching calls, those are live and synchronous as it were, and we deliver those on Zoom, not unlike this. The difference is it's less of a talking heads and much more about dialogue and facilitated discussion, working through the questions and the worksheets and the activities that are within the program. And so here's just a screenshot of those activities. If you can go to the next slide, Marissa. And so I won't linger here too long, but what I did want to flag is that currently within the province and within the city of Grande Prairie, there is a tremendous amount of resources and support for small and medium businesses. And it can be quite dizzying when you look at all of the resources available, but our training program fits the criteria of the Alberta Job Grant. So for those qualifying businesses, they can apply for the Alberta Job Grant to get a portion of the program subsidized. Prior to that, actually, I should mention we have a partnership with the Alberta Chambers of Commerce and the Grande Prairie District Chambers of Commerce. So if you are a chamber member business, there's a discount right out of the gate. Then you can stack on top of that the Alberta Job Grant. And then if you happen to be a business registered in the city of Grande Prairie, you may also qualify for a new training grant that the city of Grande Prairie has put together to support businesses to get crucial training services for their employees. So it's really a great stacking opportunity of discounts and subsidies that all together make these types of programs really accessible for small businesses. So Marissa, if you can go to the next slide. I will end at the end and answer any questions that some of you might have. But for the rest of the session, we're going to transfer it over to Marissa, who will lead a little bit of sort of theory and a little bit of hands-on in terms of Instagram. Again, just one of the narrow slices of topics that we cover within the 3-month training program. Marissa, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. All right, so as Ryan said, my name is Marissa. I am the community coordinator here at 910. I also do a lot of social media coordination. So I'm pretty much on Instagram and Facebook, I would say, every day for work, of course, plus other social media platforms as well. I'm really excited to be here and sharing some of my knowledge on that with you today, mostly because I know Instagram can feel a little bit overwhelming for a lot of business owners because there's a lot of things that you can do on it. So we're going to be kind of diving into that. So I wanted to start off by giving you a bit of overview of what we're going to talk about. So we're first going to just do a quick overview of Instagram, and then we're going to dive into the various types of content forms that are available on this app. So this includes things like the Instagram newsfeed, and then the newer features, let's say, from Instagram, including Instagram stories, reels, guides, IGTV, and Instagram live video. At the end, you're also going to have an opportunity to enter a contest that we're running. I will get to that more at the end, but just kind of a little nugget of thought here to keep your creative minds open to content possibilities, as it will require you to create a piece of content on Instagram to enter. But I will save more information about that till the end. So right off the bat, let's talk about Instagram. So Instagram is a social media platform. It started in 2010. In the beginning, it was just a photo sharing app. You took a photo, which is kind of where the joke that everyone just posts about what they're eating that day. You post it to your Instagram profile, and that was pretty much it. Over the years, it did evolve, and they started adding more features to it. Eventually, in 2012, it actually became so influential that Facebook bought it out for $1 million. The great thing about Instagram is it's used by a lot of people. So it's actually used by over 500 million people every single day. You have 500 million people logging into Instagram. And it's actually the most used social media platform behind Facebook itself, given one of the reasons that Facebook wanted to buy it so badly. In terms of that comparison, Instagram has a lot of younger demographic on it than Facebook. So most users are actually between the ages of 25 and 34, with the next highest user group between the ages of 18 to 24. So that kind of brings me to the point of why Instagram is so useful for businesses. So one, you're reaching a younger demographic. So in comparison to Facebook, you are reaching that younger 34 and below kind of demographic. And so if you're not on Instagram, you're actually potentially missing a lot of those people. There are a lot of people in that age range who don't actually have Facebook accounts, or if they do, they don't use them very heavily or actively, whereas they are logging into Instagram on a daily or at least every other day kind of basis. So being on Instagram and using the application to its full advantage is really important to reach that younger demographic. Instagram, because it has so many different features and ways to create content on it, it does have the benefit that you can create a variety of content types and put them all into one spot. So that is a huge benefit for lots of businesses because it allows you to explain your services, your products, your whatever in a variety of different ways, aimed at a variety of different people, and still have that resonate with everyone. And that leads me to my third point, which is it is great for promoting sales of services and products. Instagram actually has the ability for you to sell directly on its application. I don't touch on that too much today because it is a kind of big topic on its own, but it's also great for just explaining products, giving people the opportunity to learn how they work, and same with your services. So this is really useful for a variety of business types. We use it to explain, like what might go into creating a website, for example, or what goes into creating a logo and your branding, and actually breaking that down for our audience. So it's a really great place for you to break down some of those things that your businesses do. And then the fourth point is that it is great for brand awareness and recognition. As I said, it has 500 million daily users. So this is a stellar opportunity to increase your brand recognition, especially when it's combined with a really good content strategy. And the last point is it's quote unquote free to use. I actually don't love this phrase personally, just being a social media coordinator. It's free to use in the sense that it's free to sign up for. So you can get on it really easily, you can create accounts really easily, and that part is 100% free. The part that is going to actually take money is that it takes time. So it's either coming from a business owner or somebody like me who is a social media coordinator who is obviously paid to make content for these platforms. So while it is free to use technically, it will take your time, it will take energy, or someone's time and energy. So just kind of keeping that in mind, as it is a benefit, but it kind of comes with a little asterisk on it. All right, so that being said, I really want to move into the many facets of Instagram. So this is one of the things that we hear from our clients lots, is that it's actually that Instagram can be quite confusing and overwhelming. It seems like a really simple social media platform, but it's actually super complicated in how it's set up. This complication comes from the fact that Instagram has several features, or facets as I'm calling them on this slide. And these are just different ways for you to post content to the platform. But when you're starting out, it really feels like these areas are kind of their own mini platforms embedded into one application. So for this, I really like to use the analogy of a neighborhood. So when you have, any city has neighborhoods, and you can think of Instagram as the city. So that is the place where all of this is held. It's all within the city of Instagram. But each little area is its own neighborhood. So they have their own feel, they have their own kind of culture, they have their own trends, and they have their own things to do in that area. It's also a really great analogy because it allows you to imagine it's really easy to accidentally cross over sometimes, or things are connected in really interesting ways in cities. So this is kind of how you can think about the different things you can do on Instagram. Might be a little bit more accessible there for you. I'm going to dive into each of these deeply today, but let's just touch on them really quickly for each. So the first one is what I'll call the regular posts, or your news feed. So this is just pictures and videos that are being posted directly to the application. It's probably what you're thinking of if you've ever been on Instagram. I'll show you an example in a second, and you're just thinking of those regular photo posts. Then we have Instagram stories, which are really short pieces of content that disappear after 24 hours. Again, I'll touch on that a little bit more in a second. The next thing that we have is Instagram TV, or IGTV. So this is kind of similar to YouTube. You can think of it in that light. These are videos that are over a minute long. So any video that's over a minute long can be hosted directly on Instagram. And we'll come back to that one. And then we have Instagram live videos. That's pretty self-explanatory. So it is any live video. It is happening in the moment. You're able to respond to your audience right there. Instagram Reels, which are short videos that loop about themselves. And Instagram Guides, which is probably the least known area of Instagram. And it's just kind of a way for you to curate a whole bunch of content. So that was a lot of information that I just threw at you. So let's actually just take a second to break each of those down. So let's talk about the newsfeed first. So this is the main place that you're going to be seeing on Instagram. And you can see in this video here that, you know, it's just posts. It's going to be mostly pictures with some videos being kind of thrown in there. A lovely one there from Elbel. And these are what I call regular posts. So they show up in the newsfeed for anyone who follows you. So these are all the accounts that 910 follows, just kind of being pulled into one place, and me being able to just kind of scroll through them and see what I like and what I might want to engage with. So as I said, they can be a mixed, they can be pictures, they can be videos. Sometimes it's even a mixture. Reels and Instagram TV videos are also linked here. So you can actually pull them into people's news feeds. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're maybe creating those pieces of content. Your newsfeed will also include things like ads, posts from accounts that you follow and profiles that you follow. And if you follow any hashtags, they will also be pulled into this area. So this is kind of your hub for everything that's kind of happening on Instagram. As far as posting to this place as a business, this is where you're going to be reaching the people that already follow you. So those are what I would call your core audience. They are the people who have raised their hand and said, hey, I really like this company for whatever reason that is, and I want to be kept up to date on what they're doing. So making sure that you're posting regularly on these regular posts is really important, because you are going to be facilitating the people who are part of your core following. So that's just something to keep in mind. And lots of different content can go here, from explaining your services to posting a fun picture of a dog that came into the office, or just a picture of your morning coffee is a really a go-to one for me in particular. So that is something to keep in mind. There's a variety of things that you can put here. The next one I want to talk about is Instagram stories. So Instagram stories are a newer feature in Instagram. They've been around for a couple of years now. They are short pieces of content, and they disappear after 24 hours. So they're very ephemeral, and they won't stick around forever. So you can kind of have a little bit of fun with that. They also exist at the top of your newsfeed. You might have missed it in the video. It should loop back to it. But right above where you saw all those posts in the previous slide, they're just the little circles at the top. So those are people's stories. Because they're short videos, because they disappear after 24 hours, they tend to have a high level of engagement. In fact, most, if not all, Instagram users will use stories at least once a day and check out at least one person's story. A really great thing to keep in mind here is the length of this piece of content is only 15 seconds. So whether it's a video that's being put up there for 15 seconds, or it's a picture that's only going to remain up for 15 seconds, after that point, Instagram's automatically going to push the user over to the next piece of content. This means that it kind of becomes a game of how interesting you can be in those 15 seconds. How eye-catching can you make this piece of content? So they tend to have a lot of different movement or stickers or pieces of information, just kind of within them. The benefit here is that it is coming up at the top there. So you are getting a little bit of extra, almost brand recognition as your company, as people are seeing you in multiple places. So that's one thing that I would say is really good to keep in mind when you're posting to your stories. And then the only other kind of thing that I have to add there is don't post too many in a day. I would have a rough estimate of a maximum of 10. That's very variable depending on what industry, what business you're in, how much engagement you're getting off of them. But you will tend to see a fall off of people viewing your stories after you post about 10 of them. It's just a lot to kind of click through. All right, and then from there we have Instagram TV, so IGTV. So we do have IGTV is Instagram's answer to YouTube, essentially. It's very similar in its function and format, and it's just made for direct integration into your Instagram profile. Instagram TV is interesting because it actually has its own separate application. I wouldn't worry too much about that. That's kind of something a lot of people don't even really know. You can access most of its features through the app itself. So we can see in this example here that this is we have one Instagram TV video up, and this is the video that is. You can find it on our profile. It's a little TV icon that you need to click on, and it'll just run through the whole, 2-minute, or I think it's 2 minutes and 52-second video. And it's just kind of there for people who like that longer form content. So there's lots of businesses who use this as a way to explain deeply about their services, potentially, maybe talk about if it's like a retail store, maybe a product that's really great, but could even be challenging to use or something like that, and just explaining how to use it or the benefits of it. On the Instagram TV app, it's a little bit interesting as well. So you actually get 2 pages for seeing this kind of content. You can see that up at the top here. So it says For You and Following. So the For You page is just recommending content to users. It's things that Instagram thinks that you'll like to watch. The Following is anyone you follow. So it's going to pull from a variety of businesses, profiles, and people that you follow on Instagram, and just throw all their videos into one giant feed. I mention this because with Instagram TV, as you post these videos, you do have the opportunity to engage with people who don't already follow you. Because there is a For You feed, it will pull up your video and recommend it to people that it thinks might be interested in it. So this is a good opportunity to keep in mind, because when you post something to an IGTV, you do have the opportunity to reach past your following base, which is really valuable as a business to help build that brand recognition, help build that brand awareness. All right. Perfect. This is now going on to Instagram Live, and you might have missed it. So I'm actually going to just pull this back here for a second. But with Instagram Live, something really interesting happens. So if you look here at the top, there's a notification. So when you go live on Instagram Live, it actually sends a notification to anyone who's on the app at that time and says, hey, this person just went live. You might want to check it out. So that's really valuable as a business. And I'm going to get to that more in a second. Instagram Live, as its name is implying, is just live streaming content. So this is a video that I posted, and I was doing it live, and people were joining as I was talking. And you can see a little bit later on, they're actually making comments and stuff like that. I didn't include the audio for this video because I didn't want to be speaking over myself here, but I do actually even reply to the comments, make a point of saying hi to the people that are saying hi to me. The reason this is super valuable for businesses is that that's an immediate engagement. That's an immediate connection that you're making with that person. And it's only possible because you're going, being brave and saying something live on doing this live video so that you can create that engagement. Instagram Live is similar to a couple other platforms as well that you might be a little bit more familiar with if you've never used this. So one of them is Facebook Live, which is obviously kind of one of the same. It's just you can do a little bit more on Facebook Live. The other is an application called Twitch, which is the #1 live streaming application. It's generally used by a whole bunch of streamers and gamers and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where Instagram has pulled this idea from. It's perfect for things like Q&As, announcements. If you're having a change in your business that you need people to know about and you think they might have questions about, it's perfect for that kind of content because you really can get their feedback right there in the moment. Similar to Q&As, I've seen a lot of businesses do this really successfully where they just kind of showcase a service or whatnot, and then they ask people if they have any sort of questions and that sort of thing. And so that notification that's popped up again, that's pretty much the highlight of Instagram Live. It will actually make it easy for people to jump into the video, and it will give you an extra little boost in the algorithm. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so now we're moving on to Reels, which is actually the newest integration that Instagram has made available. So these are short, up to a minute long videos, and they just loop about themselves, similar to a GIF or a GIF in that manner. They can be really fun, they can be educational. You can see this example on screen right now is actually from High Tech Business Systems. So they are actually currently taking our boot camp. And so I kind of pushed them to create some reels because I thought that would be really great for them. And they're doing an awesome job. So if you actually want to check out how a company is using them really successfully, I'd recommend just kind of checking them out. Their username is High Tech Business Systems, so you can just find them there. The reason that Instagram Reels are so important for you to be aware of, at least if you're not ready to post one, that's totally cool. They are a new feature, but they are a response to a really viral app called TikTok. Totally separate app. If you don't know what that is, you can just ignore that I said that, but it does kind of call into that application. And because of that, Instagram is actually pushing Reels really hard right now. So you tend to get higher level of engagements off of these Reels. I think High Tech said that their top one has hit 4,000 views, which is just amazing for them to be able to have that kind of exposure with just a minute video, right? These also, very similar to IGTV videos, will show up in their own kind of news feed. So they will be pushed out to people who don't follow you, which again is super important because you do want to be creating that brand recognition outside of your followers as well as within your follower base. So you can find a lot of new people actually following you if you do have a really successful reel go kind of quote unquote viral, or even just get a little bit of a success online. All right, and now we're on to our last one, which is Instagram guides. This is what I would call the hidden gem of Instagram. I don't think a lot of people know that this actually exists. It's used fairly well by the businesses that do use them, but I do think it's one of those things that requires a little bit more intention and a little bit more planning to use successfully. So this is kind of similar in a way to Pinterest. So the way that you can create Pinterest boards is kind of the idea behind this. It's not exactly the same, but it's a good comparison. You can use it to curate posts from around Instagram. You can use it to curate products that you would recommend to someone, and you can even use it to recommend locations. So a couple of examples about how this could be used. 910, for example, might, once where businesses are a little bit more open and that sort of thing, might recommend great places to go to hold a meeting with a client. That's something that we could do and create a guide about and just kind of give our recommendations of places to go in Grande Prairie. That's a super relevant thing for a lot of our clients. And it's just kind of interesting, and it gives a little bit of love to local. Another way this could be used is if you do have product recommendations for, let's say it's a hair salon and they want to recommend products for curly or wavy hair, you could compile them all into one place. Now, these don't show up in people's news feeds. They don't show up in the stories unless you push them there. So that is something that becomes a little bit more intentional. If you create a guide and you take the time to pull this content together, you should be posting about it in other places. So this would be like posting to your story and saying, hey, we have a guide about how you can, the top 10 curly hair products that we recommend and how to use them, and kind of guide people over to check out your own guides there. And this is a great place to build trust with your audience. You're informing them about different services, different products, potentially different places to go, and you're just trying to be helpful. And that is something that tends to create trust, especially on social media, when you're helping out people with common questions that they might have. All right. And that was a lot of information. So I did make this little chart here. We will be providing this after at the end of the day here, so that you guys can have this on hand as you go about creating potentially some sort of social media plan. So you can see it just kind of breaks down each of the things I talked about today, and it gives you kind of a guide of how to use them. It also tells you what content can go there, the ideal length of it, if that's applicable, and what it's kind of similar to. And most of them are kind of similar to something else that already exists. So it's useful for you to even be able to check out, what do people post on YouTube really successfully? Okay, well, maybe I can use that information to post better things to my IGTV account. It's also going to go through who sees it, when to use it, and the benefits. And the benefits is a really important part for me. So just to kind of recap again, those regular posts, they're reaching your core audience. The IGTV, it's great for longer content. You can inform a lot about your services, your products, etc. in those kinds of posts. Your stories will exist on the top of Instagram. Your live will send out a notification. The reels reach a wider audience than you have already. So that's super valuable there. And your guides are ability for you to curate content for your audience. So as I said, we will get this sent out to all of you so that you have this on hand in just kind of a PDF format, because it is really handy to have. All right, and so with all that little bit of information, I have kind of 4 tips to close us out here before we open it up for a little bit of a Q&A if you guys do have any questions for me. So my first tip is create a plan. So social media is always going to be better with a plan. This is something we cover extensively in our digital marketing bootcamp, is how to make this plan so it actually fits your company's needs and it's realistic. And that's a big thing, is we want it to be something that you can actually do. And so that's something to keep in mind as you go through and kind of create a plan. What I would do personally is I would look at these forms of content and say which align with my business goals. So if I was working with any of you as a business, that would be the first question I would ask. What aligns with what you're trying to do, or your services or your products? What would be an interesting way to showcase this? And I would kind of pick a couple places that I want to learn more about and then kind of go from there. And I would say create a plan for your ideal situation as well. You might create actually 2. One is where you are right now. One is your ideal situation, where you want to be maybe in a year or something on social media. This is really important because it leads into my next tip, which is start small. Social media can be super overwhelming for a lot of people. And so it is actually really overwhelming. There's lots of stuff you can do. So that's totally normal. What we always say is start small. If you don't have an Instagram account and you're here today, first step, go make one. Go set up your account, go make it, and just kind of see what that's all about and take that one step. If you already have an Instagram account but you don't post, go ahead and make some posts. Take whatever steps make sense for you right now with that goal in mind. So maybe eventually you're thinking right now, hey, reels look really cool. I think that our audience would engage with them super well. That's great. If you've never been on Instagram before, I wouldn't recommend starting there. I would recommend just kind of taking it one step at a time here. My third tip is study the features. So before you go and post that first reel or that first story or that first live video, check out a few. So see what it's all about, see what people do on these features, make sure that you're actually kind of watching what's going on. A lot of them have kind of trends and stuff that run through them. So being aware of those can really help create a good content plan for you. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. And then my last tip is to be brave. So it's always going to feel a little bit scary. I know this was actually something I talked a lot about with High Tech in our bootcamp, is that first reel they posted was so intimidating to do. And now they're just whizzes at it. They're almost experts at posting these reels. They have so many ideas. They're just kind of killing it there. So the first one they posted, they're not super impressed with anymore, but it's where they were and they learned from it. And so you're always going to improve on it. So once you've kind of created your plan, you've started off small and you've studied the features, your next step is to just kind of be brave and jump right in. All right, so now I did promise that we were having a little bit of a contest here. So this is where you can put your new skills to the test. So we will be running a contest, and all you have to do is post to Instagram and tag us. So go ahead and post as a regular post, as a story, as a reel, anything you want. Just give us a little tag in the comments or on the post, and we'll be able to see it. And make sure you use the hashtag 910bootcamp, and then we'll be able to check them out. And the most creative post will win a $100 gift card to our online shop, which has a variety of things on it. You can kind of see some examples there. There's lots of more stuff that will be available for you. So you have until Saturday night to enter this, and we will contact the winners after that. All right, so that was kind of it for my part. Ryan, do you have any closing remarks before we open it up for some questions?
Yeah, I'll just thank you, Marissa. Just a few comments, and then we'll go to some Q&A and hopefully have some discussion. It's about 10:40, so we certainly have more time to have some discussions about all things social, Instagram. Now, what I wanted to just talk a little bit about is within our digital marketing bootcamp. Again, Instagram is one of the platforms we cover. We also go really in depth within Facebook. We go quite in depth within Google My Business. In fact, I believe our first Serving Up Knowledge session with the city and the chamber was all about how to take control of and master your Google My Business directory listing. Very important in terms of being found on search. We spent a lot of time on Canva and cover quite a few of the best practices and platforms and skills that are required to really effectively do digital marketing in-house. And what I wanted to sort of frame as well is that we're always covering about half of it is strategy, which then informs the tactics. So the tactics are like, where are the buttons? How do you use the feature? Understanding all of the different facets of Instagram. Marissa, I hadn't heard the city neighborhood analogy before. That I think that's really useful, even helps me to understand. Instagram, like Facebook, like many of these platforms, they have lots of different elements to it. And so what this ends up feeling like, and what is true, is that all together, all of these digital marketing activities that you would want to be able to take in-house, it's complex. And what complex means is there's just lots of components, but it's not complicated. And that's the key part. And this is our core philosophy. This is accessible. You can learn how to do this. These are things that businesses can and should be doing in-house. So where there's complexity, it's just there's lots of moving parts. But when you isolate them and you learn some of the best practices and you do some practice and you get a little bit of guidance and coaching, you will find that it is not complicated. It just takes time. It takes routine. It takes discipline. Not unlike going to the gym. And this is why we've called it a boot camp. You just, once you get into the routine and the repetitions, it just sort of, it picks up steam. So let's go to questions first. So Bonnie from the work group asked a question, Marissa, how much text should you have in a regular post? This is a really sort of common question. Twitter was made famous originally with its character count, which they since expanded. I know the answer depends a little bit, but can you speak to length of posts on a regular post and maybe touch on hashtags as well, Marissa?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually a great question. It's something we get asked a lot, so that's awesome. And the unfortunate part is my answer is it depends, which is both freeing and maybe a little bit frustrating, but I'm going to explain that a bit more. So I approach captions in the sense that I kind of change it up every once in a while. So short captions, totally acceptable. Long captions, also very acceptable on the app itself. So both are standards. It's just kind of a matter of what you want to do. So short captions have the advantage that you're just kind of getting to your point quickly and sweetly, and then you're letting people move on. So for example, in my I'm going to post about my morning coffee example there that I mentioned earlier, I would use a short caption for that one for sure. It would be something maybe a little bit of a pun or a joke, something maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and then I would just kind of let that be, and then that's all good. With something where I'm explaining services or I'm wanting people to understand a topic, I'm going to use a longer caption for a couple reasons. One, it's just more space to get my information across if people want more information based off of my graphic. So that's one of the reasons. The other thing is as soon as you have a long caption on Instagram, it truncates it. So it makes it smaller, and then it only shows a little preview of it. And then there's a little ... see more. Once people click on that see more, it actually counts as a small engagement on Instagram. So that's something to keep in mind as you're posting. I don't like to do this all the time, but I might, hide a little bit of nugget of information under that see more with the intention of people knowing that it's on its way. So a really great example that comes to mind is like real estate agents. So I see them lots of times. They will actually have the price of a house at the bottom of a caption, which means you have to click that see more tag to open up that caption. to see the price of the house or the neighborhood it's in or whatever it is, that little piece of information that lots of people are looking for. And it creates an engagement. As soon as they click that button, it's an engagement. So Instagram goes, oh, there's something interesting here. And it's actually going to push your content out just a little bit further than it might have gone before. So it's kind of a useful tip to create longer captions with the intention of that creating an engagement. As Ryan talked about, there is also hashtags. So every single thing that you post on Instagram should have hashtags, which are just little phrases that make it easy to navigate content on most social media platforms. They kind of show up as little hyperlinks or like almost like URLs where you can click on them and then they'll take you to, the hashtags that whatever you clicked on. So if you click on hashtag 910 Inc., it would take you to all the posts that have hashtag 910 Inc. in them. So that's kind of a useful feature to always have in your captions. You can have up to, it's either 30 or 35. It changes every once in a while. So, but I would use as many captions as you can. I would actually hit that number. So that is just because like, why not use as much as you can? Because you are creating those kind of connections through Instagram and making it easier for people to navigate your content. So that's kind of the other half of it. Even with the short caption of my cup of coffee and I have something cute and sweet that I say about it, I would kind of put a couple spaces and then I would put 30 hashtags at the bottom so that it's starting to filter the information. It's making it easier for people to find what they're looking for.
Thanks, Marissa. I see Natalie from Prairie Mall answered with the ding, 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 right answer there, Natalie, a bit of a power user herself on Instagram, really trying to learn this platform. Councillor Dylan Bressy from the city. Dylan, thanks for joining. A really great question. How important is it to create Instagram-only content? Is it a good idea or a bad idea to cross-post between different social media platforms so that we can have more content on each one? I'll share some thoughts and then I'll let Marissa expand on this. My general thought here is when you're just learning platforms and you're trying to get comfortable with them, it takes a lot of time and effort to create good quality content, let alone good quality content for multiple platforms. So it is very common in the beginning for people, businesses to create content and share the same content on Facebook or Instagram. But in the long run, you want to move away from that because what you're doing really is you're de-incentivizing someone. If someone's following you on Facebook, and then they have a chance to follow you on Instagram, but it's going to be the exact same content on both, there's not a good reason to be following you over on Facebook or Instagram. You could develop a strategy like that, and if it happens to be the case that you're targeting two separate audiences and you know that they're not really on both places, that's fine. But a good example of here is a discussion we had with the high-tech team through our boot camp. When they were first taking the step to get on Instagram, we were talking about content strategy. So this goes back to within the bootcamp, we cover quite a bit of strategy. It's like the planning phase, the goals, the objectives. And when you plan out the content strategy, we talk about what should you be posting on Instagram versus on LinkedIn versus on Facebook, for example. And some of the decisions were that high tech is a large group of companies, a high tech family. They're going to be experimenting with using Facebook to show sort of the softer side, the human side of the high-tech people, what high-tech does in the community, all of these types of things where it's almost to a certain degree, you could imagine it as a recruiting tool for the great culture that high-tech has within the group of companies. But then you could imagine over on LinkedIn, for example, they would be doing more business-focused, helping businesses solve technical problems with their servers and their IT and doing more knowledge transfer, educating. So you could imagine those being very different content strategies, and that's what we'd probably advocate for. Marissa, do you have anything to add to that, maybe for different examples of a different company or wherever you want to go with that?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things I would say is even if you're using the same piece of content, so if I have one picture and I need to post it on both, that's totally fine. If I'm really strapped for time, I will probably just post it with like the same caption. But the number one recommendation I can do is, again, start small. So if it's not realistic for you to post different pieces of content on Instagram and Facebook, then post a different caption and kind of move forward from there. But as Ryan kind of alluded to there, you do want the strategies to eventually be different because you do want people to follow you on both as many places as possible. So creating different pieces of information on different social media platforms is really valuable to encourage people to do that. And so I think that that's kind of a good reasoning to make sure that you have separate content strategies. Obviously, life is busy, businesses are very busy. And so that's where I come up with the, if you're going to be posting the same piece of content, change out the captions, see if you can add more information in one spot. It's also a way for you to kind of test how your content is doing and maybe where certain pieces of content need to exist. So it's not terrible to do at the start, but I would encourage you to move away from that as you get more comfortable on Instagram.
Thank you, Marissa. I'll just add to that as well. You know, in this session, we sort of jumped right into the nuts and bolts, the various features of Instagram. But what we skipped over a little bit, and this is something that's really important to do, is it's again that strategic layer. It's that planning. It's really as a business determining if we're talking about social media platforms, which social media platforms are the right fit for your business. Now, some businesses are B2C, business to consumers, retail would be an example of that. Whereas an accounting firm is B2B, business to business. They tend to be focusing on businesses. So it's not always the case that the hottest social media platform of the day is the right fit for your business. So it is important to sort of look at, do a bit of a map and determine where is your target audience and which platform is the one that you would be prioritizing. And depending on your business, it may be Facebook, it may be LinkedIn, it may be Instagram, it may be TikTok, it may be all of these. But what businesses will find is it's very difficult to find the resources. Social media is not free because it takes time. It takes time to do well. And more commonly as well with social media now, for business pages, for example, within Facebook, your reach is limited. Your reach will be limited or scaled back by the algorithm. And one of the ways you can sort of get past that is by paying. So Facebook allows you famously to boost posts and to do paid ads. And this is the same with Instagram and the majority of the social media platforms. So it really isn't free. So if it's not free, you really want to make sure that you're being strategic and you're using it most efficiently. So Lindsay Friesen, actually, let me just check here. Lindsay Friesen, do content strategies vary among industries? For instance, retail versus oil and gas? Yes, very much so. So, what we quite often see with oil and gas companies as they're using social media, it can be challenging to develop an interesting and vibrant and dynamic content strategy for an oil field company that specializes in downhole tools, for example, which is very common within this industry. So it would be common for an oil field type company to use social media to really profile what they're doing in the community, to profile their company culture, certainly to use it for recruitment. Now, within that, they would absolutely want to share some of their knowledge and expertise. We have a bit of a loud buzz there in the back. I'm not sure. We might want to put someone on mute. I'm not sure if I'm the only one hearing that. And then a content strategy for a retail company would likely be product focused. It would be really about showcasing products and sort of making it accessible. Marissa, you probably have some really great answers to this question as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually do have a lot of thoughts on this. So we cover this a lot in our digital marketing bootcamp. There's a couple ways to think about this. And one of the things I would say is, well, to answer your question really quickly, it is yes, different content strategies will vary amongst industries, and where you should be online, as Ryan's alluding to, is also something that will change. How I like to break this down is really quickly. This is kind of the cliff notes of it, is that you want to focus mostly on your audience. So where is your audience? Who are you trying to talk to when you're in these industries? So for retail, it might make sense for them to have a different strategy, but if it's a very specific type of retail, it might actually be relatively similar to an oil and gas company. So thinking about the people that you're talking to is really important for creating that content strategy, because it's for them that you're creating it, right? It's for your audience. So that should always be kind of front of mind when you're creating a piece of content. So kind of an example of that is like 910. Yes, we talk to businesses. That's what we do. We work with other businesses, and that's how our services work. But in order to get into those businesses, we're also talking to the people in them. So we're talking to the social media coordinators in a business. We're talking to the business owners. We're talking to high-level managers and stuff like that. So we are actually addressing those people as well. And so thinking about it in that way when you're creating a content strategy is, I find, really valuable, because you start to break it down into Who am I talking to? Okay, well, where are they online? Okay, well, what kind of content are they consuming? And those are valuable questions for you to be asking as you're creating your content plan, as you're kind of strategizing and going from there. So that's where I would focus to kind of answer that question is, who is your audience? One, you're not going to just have one. You're probably going to have like, I don't know, up to 20 or 25 if you actually break them down. So try to break them down, see what kind of similarities they have, how you can address them, and where you think they are online. So they might be in that uh, 18 to 34-year-old age range. And so you might want to be on Instagram. They might not be in that age range, very likely. So you might not want to maybe put too much time into it, or you might want to be kind of focusing on something else. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Thank you, Marissa. An example for content strategies, just to expand on that, Lindsay, I like to use the example of realtors. One, there's so many realtors within this marketplace, and so many of them are active on social media. So you can really see a lot of different content strategies that are really well planned and articulated, and others that are just shooting from the hip and playing it by ear. And so you can imagine a realtor that has a really strong content strategy. There's all those posts across various platforms that are focusing on, say, the MLS inventory, the houses, just listed, price drops, open houses, virtual tours and drones, all of the different types of content that can be associated to that. You can also imagine that a realtor would do lots of posts that are related to transferring knowledge and tips and tricks for first home buyers, things to be considering about your mortgage, or if you're going to get a home inspection, or questions to ask your realtor, or how do you interview a realtor and choose. So there's all those types of things. And then you can imagine the realtor saying, what's my content strategy that allows me to collaborate with others on social media? Who are the mortgage brokers that I work with? Who are the lawyers and the conveyancer? Who are the home inspectors that I can develop relationships with and cross post and sort of again educate your target audience about all things real estate. And then you can go a little bit further and say, but I also don't want all the burden of creating all this content. Can't I curate some of this content like a museum curator? So you'd see realtors that are finding all of this great content out on the open web. Design tips for renovating your house and setting up your backyard, and man cages and wonderful garden boxes, and how to choose the right paint and how to stage your house, all of these types of things. So there's lots of realtors that are starting to both create and curate content about interior design and about backyard yard care, all of this type of stuff. And so it really goes on and on. And so what you'll find here is like, wow, that's really complex. There's lots of parts to it. But when you focus on any one of those, there's nothing that's complicated about that. It's just really getting out that map and then developing the discipline and the time, setting out the time to do it. And then, once you have that strategic map set out, then you'll learn some of the tactics. How do I do this efficiently? I can schedule content. What are the tools that I can put in place so that I can create content in 15 minutes as opposed to in an hour and a half? And part of this is just, a little bit of practice and some habit building as well. So, Lindsay, I thought that was a great question. What other questions might the group have? Are there any questions or maybe insights? Would anyone like to jump onto the mic and share some of their ideas or challenges or great wins that they're having on Instagram or any social platforms for that matter?
Sure, Ryan.
Jump on in there, Dylan. I know as I was pressing you a little bit in the side comments, you had a wonderful insight you shared with me.
Yeah, I know for us, I appreciate the segmentation of platforms. For our company is mostly a B2B company, and social media has been a valuable place for customers. But more importantly for us, labor is always an issue for us, and social media has been really important for us to find workers. And so it's really got me thinking that we need to do a better job of picking, all right, this platform is for building relationships with workers and potential workers, and this is our customer platform. So that was an insight I appreciated that it was kind of niggling in my head, but it's good to get pressed on that a bit.
Yeah, and it's just such an insightful question. And you're basically talking about segmenting. You have multiple target audiences, and they might be showing up in different places, and they might have different questions. They might have different needs. You will serve them differently, or the relationship with them will be different as well. So, Marissa, before we hand it back over to Tom, are there any comments you want to close out the session with?
Nothing, except I actually want to just kind of add on to that comment by Dylan that, yeah, like that is another way to look at it as well, is like employee, even just kind of getting, kind of applications and stuff like that. That can come a lot from social media. Lots of companies have success with focusing on that. It also showcases your work culture on social media. So that's one of the reasons why 910, for example, will focus on like talking about, people's home offices or stuff like that, because we're showcasing our company culture and we're showcasing how our company works. And that can be really appealing when when you're looking to hire or something like that, because you're looking for people are also checking you out on social media. They're seeing what you are all about before they're getting too invested. So having that ability to showcase what you're like to work with is also a really great kind of benefit of social media that I think gets overlooked. Even I forgot to mention it today, so that's perfect. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else to kind of close it out, other than I'm really happy to have been able to share some knowledge with you guys, and I hope you took away a lot.
That's terrific. Thank you, Marissa and Ryan. Just another great presentation. And thank you for sharing those other couple of documents that we'll be sending out to all the registrants here shortly, as soon as I get back to my email. And if you do have suggestions for other topics that you'd like to find out more about, or if you think you have a skill set that that would be beneficial to the business community, by all means, email myself or email Lauren at the city, and let's talk. Let's see if we can do a serving up knowledge session with you and or for you. We are, the chamber is so pleased again to be working with the city on this these sessions, and to have businesses like 910 step up and provide that type of information that people are looking for. So I hope you folks enjoyed the session. We have another session next week talking about the Get in the Loop platform. Then the following week, we'll welcome back 910 and talk a little bit about cross promotions and messaging. And I'm sure, great information on both those sessions in the coming weeks. And then we look forward to more sessions in the future as we continue our Serving Up Knowledge series. So for now, on behalf of the city and 910, we wish you all a wonderful day, a good weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.